Wells Cathedral is an Anglican cathedral in Wells, Somerset, England, dedicated to St. Andrew the Apostle. Built as a Roman Catholic cathedral from around 1175 to replace an earlier church on the site since 705, it became an Anglican cathedral when King Henry VIII split from Rome. Its Gothic architecture is mostly inspired from early English style of the late 12th to early 13th centuries, lacking the Romanesque work that survives in many other cathedrals. Historian John Harvey sees it as Europe's first truly Gothic structure, breaking the last constraints of Romanesque. The stonework of its pointed arcades and fluted piers bears pronounced moldings and carved capitals in a foliate, stiff leaf style. Its early English front with 300 sculpted figures is seen as a supreme triumph of the combined plastic arts in England. The east end retains much ancient stained glass. Unlike many cathedrals of monastic foundation, Wells has many surviving secular buildings linked to its chapter of secular canons, including the Bishop's Palace and the 15th century residential Vicar's Close. The Wells Cathedral clock, an astronomical clock from about 1325, believed to be by Peter Lightfoot, a monk of Glastonbury. Its mechanism, dated between 1386 and 1392, was replaced in the 19th century, and the original moved to the Science Museum in London, where it still operates. The clock has its original medieval face. Apart from the time on a 24-hour dial, it shows the motion of the sun and moon, the phases of the moon, and the time since the last new moon. Wells Cathedral contains one of the most substantial collections of medieval stained glass in England, despite damage by parliamentary troops in 1642 and 1643. The 15th century tracing floor at Wells Cathedral is an extremely rare survival in European architecture. Located in the roof space above the north porch, this plaster floor was used as a drawing and design tool by medieval masons. The quadripartite vault of the nave was decorated in the 19th century. The oldest surviving glass dates from the late 13th century and is in two windows on the west side of the chapter house staircase. The bells at Wells Cathedral are the heaviest ring of 10 bells in the world. The tenor bell, the 10th and largest, known as Harwell, weighing 2,858 kilograms. They are hung for full circle ringing in the English style of change ringing. These bells are now hung in the southwest tower. To the north side of the cathedral and connected to it by the chain gate is Vicar's Close, a street planned in the 14th century and claimed to be the oldest purely residential street in Europe, with all but one of its original buildings intact. Buildings in the close include the Vicar's Hall and Gateway at the south end and Vicar's Chapel and Library to the north end. Building of the palace started around 1210 by Bishops Jocelyn of Wells and Reginald Fitz Jocelyn. The palace was originally surrounded by a medieval deer park. When the walls were built, streams were diverted to form the moat as a reservoir. In the 1550s, Bishop Barlow sold the lead from the roofs of the Great Hall. It can be seen in an engraving of 1733, but was largely demolished around 1830 by Bishop Law. He created a more picturesque ruin by removing the south and east walls and laying out and planting the area previously occupied by the Great Hall. The palace was used as a garrison for troops in both the English Civil War and Monmouth Rebellion, after which it was used as a prison for rebels after the Battle of Sedgemoor. The palace now belongs to the Church Commissioners and is managed and run by the Palace Trust. The main palace is open to the public, including the medieval vaulted undercroft, chapel, and a long gallery, although the bishop's house is still used as a residence and offices. There is a cafe overlooking the croquet lawn. The palace is licensed for weddings and used for conferences and meetings.